Welcome to this edition of Life's Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. Thanks for tuning in. My special guest today are from the Alzheimer's Association, Jennifer Monroe-Sega, who is the Associate Director of Development. And we have Sharon Waldo, who is a support group leader, and LuAnn Davidson, who is a caregiver. Thank you for being here, ladies. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about Alzheimer's itself. Let's talk a little about what your roles are, and talk a little bit about how you became involved in it.
Okay. I've been with the association since 2008, and I do fundraising and marketing for the association. So our chapter in Central Ohio serves 14 counties. We have a satellite office in Delaware, and we have programs and services to help the family members and caregivers whose loved ones are dealing with Alzheimer's or related dementia.
Very good. What does a support group leader do?
Well, as a support group leader, I facilitate a group of caregivers. We meet on a monthly basis, the second Wednesday of the month, and we meet at the Southeast Center for Independent Living at 2 o'clock. So I facilitate that group, and I've been involved in working with support groups for several years. So it's my real passion.
LuAnn, caregiver.
I am a caregiver, part of a team. We call ourselves Team Stevenson, and we care for my dad. He was diagnosed about 10 years ago and has been in memory care and assisted living, receiving support services for about 5 years. And I became acquainted with the Alzheimer's services through attending the support group that Sharon leads.
Let's talk a little bit about the disease itself. What is it? If somebody came up, well, if you had to describe it, how would you explain it?
Well, Alzheimer's is one of many forms of dementia. Dementia is an umbrella term, and Alzheimer's is the most prevalent and the most, probably 85% of the cases. And it deals with your short-term memory, cognitive impairment, it's anything that would interfere with daily living.
So does it affect men more, women more?
Right now, women are at greater risk on several fronts. One, there's a greater number of women, but also women are doing a majority of the caregiving.
So the disease, how did you talk a little bit about your dad?
I can tell you about what it looked like for our family, and it's different for every family. And I happen to work in the human services world, and I was a bit more attuned to what I might be seeing. But about 10 years ago, we noticed that my dad, at that time, he was 77, and was starting to have some struggles on tasks that would have been very easy for him. And the first one I remember was he was trying to measure a piece of a dowel rod to put in a sliding door to help one of the grandkids so that they're in their new apartment, and that's the kind of thing he would have jumped into and done so quickly without any difficulty. And I noticed that he was struggling as they were giving him the information. This is how long I need the dowel rod to be, and he struggled and finally even gave up. And to me, that was a red flag. I knew what some of the things might be that I'd be looking for, but it actually took us about 2 years until we had a firm diagnosis from the physician. And we were probably more aggressive than many families in saying to the doctor, there's something different. He's more withdrawn. He's losing his self-confidence. So from October of 2007, then we knew that this was definitely Alzheimer's that we were dealing with. But his situation, like every other Alzheimer's patient, is different. You know, his days are different than most. It just depends upon an individual's overall health and the support they have around him.
Mm-hmm. Sharon, when you deal with different people, is this common? Is this what you hear most of the time?
Yeah, it certainly is. And it's interesting because a lot of times with a husband and wife, one or the other could notice some differences and kind of slough it off and think, well, it's just normal aging. And maybe the adult children who aren't around as much don't notice the changes. So it can be several years before there is a recognition, even by doctors, that something is going on. Even though family members know something's going on, but You know, it's a disease that a lot of people want to deny.
That's my next question. Do people just say, "Oh, that he doesn't have that"? I know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
And even we as a family we have educators in our family, and people in different professions that would have had prior experience with dementia. You know, even after you've received the diagnosis and see those written papers, which I still occasionally look at, you're still thinking, well, there could be a chance this might not be correct. But I guess that's just that power of love. The idea that someone you love so dearly has a struggle ahead of them is something that we want to run to. But we found out over the course of 10 years that some of our greatest fears were never came to be. But it is the fear of the unknown. Once you receive that diagnosis, what will his life look like? Who will take care of him? How will we maintain his dignity?
now is there a website or websites people can go to, or?
There is. It's www.alz.org/Central Ohio. There's also our national website, but we also have a helpline 24/7, 1-800-272-3900, and it will be answered, and then someone will help navigate the way to the disease process.
I want to read some of the statistics that 1 in 9 older Americans has Alzheimer's disease. That about 1/3 of people age 85 and older, 32%, have Alzheimer's disease. The vast majority are age 75 or older. Every 67 seconds, someone in the United States develops Alzheimer's disease. Every 67 seconds.
So by the time we're finished
Yes.
having our conversation, about 30 people thereabouts will be newly diagnosed. And that's where the association comes in to let people know that you don't have to go through this process alone. We are here, we have a clinical care support team. You can call in, you can drop in our offices. We have a resource library, and just talking to someone, especially after being newly diagnosed, when you're saying, okay, so what's next?
Right.
What do we have? So we have a lot of resources that we can offer.
Let's talk a little bit about funding, because you can't do this on. I mean, talk a little bit about funding for the center.
Well, we get funded some grant funding from COAAA, and other various communities have different foundations and funds. Delaware County, we get funding from a foundation there. So, and also, obviously, we do a lot of fundraising events to raise not only the funds, but awareness. So we have events coming up. One of it is the Longest Day, which on June 20th, there's going to be a lot of different activities happening here in Lancaster. And the Longest Day, meaning every day is the longest day for caregivers. So we just want people to know that we're available 24/7.
And there's an event coming up, Memory Matters, Tuesday, May 12th, 6:30 to 8 at Fairfield Medical Center. You want to talk a little bit about this?
Yes, this is a community event. It's open, free for the public, and it's just a discussion by Dr. Waltz, who is a neurologist here and has a neurology practice, just talking about some basic information about Alzheimer's diseases, behaviors, caregiver stress, and community resources. So we've done this every couple of years, and there's generally a very good turnout. So we really encourage people to come and learn more. As we know,
You have to make reservations, just show up?
yeah, there's a reservation. There's a number to call. It's 689-1494. And you can make reservations. But we have plenty of seatings at Fairfield Medical Center. So, but as you know, education is the key to let people know what's going on.
What do people have questions about when you first found out? I'm sure you probably thought, well, wait, what questions do people have?
Our family, we tended to question, how will we plan for this? What do we need to change in our home setting? What do we need to change for our parents? Our mother at that time was the primary caregiver, and we knew that we needed to add some additional support in. We also wondered, how do we tell our family? How do we tell our friends? And we always base all of our questions on how do we maintain our dad's dignity in doing that. We weren't sure if we needed a different doctor. Should we have a neurologist? Would medications help? something I've learned over the years through attending the Alzheimer's support group we have in town is that there's a wealth of information out there. And my perspective is we're so busy as caregivers, it takes a lot of time to reinvent the wheel. So it's better to be able to go to a group like the Caregiver Support Group and find out, this is neurologist is in town, and they do extensive testing. And that would have saved us some legwork had I researched that information more closely. We also know as a family that books like the 36-hour day, and there's some other really key guidebooks to helping with issues that come up at home. It could be something like refusing to shower. What do we do about Dad's driving? He still wants to drive. How do we outfox the fox? It was just a full range of things. So we went on a really proactive learning spiel to figure out what works for us. But, as healthy middle-aged children, we were all able to do that. Our mother wasn't. She was in the pits. She was in there doing it every day, trying to keep my dad content and answering his many, many questions. So our perspective was to reach out. We might have done it a little bit earlier, but our initial questions primarily centered on where do we go from here and what does this look like in 10 years? We've learned that we maybe focus too much on what does this look like in 10 years, and we perhaps could have worked on what this will look like in 6 months and 9 months. It's just an overwhelming diagnosis. But groups like the Alzheimer's support group and the other programs available through the association, that's exactly what they're there for.
If someone wanted to become a caregiver, what are you thinking about when somebody walks in and says, my mom has this and I'd like to become involved? What are you thinking about to tell a caregiver?
Well, initially, there's just so many questions. Does she live alone? Is she safe at home? What family support do you have? Do you work? Most adult children are working. So is she safe to be at home during the day as well as at night? So there's a lot of different issues. How long have you noticed that she has been displaying some of these symptoms? What doctor do you go to? Are you getting information from your doctor, medication-wise, for her disease?
Is there a I don't want to say siblings? My brother thinks, this isn't right. My sister says we need to do something. How do you relate to that?
Well, that happens a lot because when there are siblings in the area, everybody has a different idea of how to handle things and what to do for mom or dad. So there can be some conflicts, and a good thing, again, is to come to the support group and listen to other caregivers talk about issues and how they've dealt with it. For many people, there's a primary caregiver, and that person usually feels a lot of stress because of all the things they have to do and responsibilities that they have. Sometimes it splits families apart. But sometimes it's just denial. Sometimes an adult child just doesn't want to recognize that their father or mother has Alzheimer's disease. So it takes some time for that to work into their being.
Now, does your support group meet every week? How often, and where do they meet?
It meets once a month, the second Wednesday of the month at 2 o'clock at the Southeast Center for Independent Living, which is off of Broad Street, across from Aesop's Towing. So, yeah.
One of the remarkable things about the support group is that it's not a pity party, and I would encourage people to know that. It's not a why me, poor pitiful us. It is an encouraging time. It's a time of education. There are always more laughs than tears because there's spouses, adult children, concerned neighbors. It just runs a gamut of people that might come to the support group. Everybody shares that universal issue, though, when they walk through the door there. This is our experience. Everyone's experience looks different, some people can come to the support group and choose to verbalize and talk a lot. Others might introduce themselves, and that's all they share throughout the meeting. And that's completely acceptable. There's no pressure to overshare. We welcome people with open arms because literally everyone in the room has been there in one form or the other. And people leave with a more relaxed feeling, and I think some hopefulness about their caregiving. Because caregiving can be very lonely. Even if you have friends saying, I'll drop off dinner on Tuesday, that leaves lots of lonely hours for say, a primary caregiver, a spouse who's had to answer the same question of her husband, hour upon hour upon hour. And as often happens when an Alzheimer's diagnosis strikes marriage, there'll be certain sets of couples or friends who will distance themselves. As I'm not speaking just to my dad's experience, but in just general terms of this age group. So there'll be some distancing. So at a time when an individual needs the most support, they really truly find out who those are that they can count on, because there's a concern that's almost contagious. And we know, of course, that isn't the case, but it really puts you smack dab having to deal with reality when you're sharing a social setting with someone that you've known for decades, and all of a sudden their situation has changed. So I encourage those that are watching to think about the caregivers and the loneliness and the isolation they might feel.
Yeah.
Is there a bond, I guess, might be between the caregivers that...
It's remarkable how bonded that group is, and also, like LuAnn said, how welcoming they are to new members who come in. But there is a very strong bond among the group members. And the group not only is a problem-solving group, but it's also talking about community resources and what can I do and what resources are in the community to help me, as well as the resources from the Alzheimer's Association.
I want to talk a little bit about the longest day again.
Okay.
Let's talk, because I'm reading some things here, but I want to hear you talk about the longest day.
The longest day is a sunrise to sunset event. So it's because every day is the longest day for caregivers. Whether you're caring for someone in your home or you have a loved one who is in assisted living or memory care. Basically, what we're asking people is to engage your friends and family and do an activity in honor or tribute of your loved ones. So we have some bowling teams. I'm working with some car dealerships to host something at their dealership it happens to be on Father's Day this year. And they're gonna sell point of purchase at the service station. We're gonna bring the Glenn Campbell documentary to the Gateway. So we're gonna do a big event around that. We have some of the long-term care facilities will be doing some activities, whether it's walking or every hour maybe is sponsored by a family member. There's a concert going on at one of the retirement villages. So it's a do what you love, invite your friends, raise awareness and fun. So it's different where you're not coming to one location to do, say, a walk, but you're doing it in your own backyard. We have one of the churches, they're going to do a concert. So we're just going to everybody log on to alz.org, the longest day, and sign up. You've got all your resources there, and just have fun and make it an enlightening day, because this disease is very impactful on families. I know it on a personal level, but with all the families that we deal with and that I've met over the years. But just to bring a bright spot and and embrace and be with the person who has the disease, rather than focus on what is being lost by that person. So you need to be in that person's world. So this is where what does your loved one like to do? My team deemed Boonpa. I'll explain that. Boonpa. Boona for my mother and Papa for my father-in-law. Okay. So we're going to do some woodworking because my father-in-law loved to woodwork. And we're going to bake because my mom liked to bake. And I'm going to drop off. There's a couple of long-term care facilities. I'm going to donate all my baked goods to them, and that's what we're going to do.
That is neat. That is fantastic. Have you been?
I think you brought up a wonderful point. There is joy in this journey, and early on it's so hard to conceive there will ever be joy in the journey. But I have a habit of, over the years, I've noted on a calendar when things happened that were joyful or funny, and then when days went by that things were more of a struggle, then I could go back to my handwritten note and think, oh, that was really funny. And there is joy in our journey. It's just not the journey we envisioned.
That is very true. But you have to, every case is different. Everybody, if you know one person who is going through Alzheimer's or related dementia, that's one person, and no one reacts the same to the medication.
Right.
It's very complicated, and that's why we push also not only about raising awareness and raising funds, which is important because they're saying that we're on this tsunami. We need more funding for research, and that's why we are asking people also, if you can't volunteer, do a longest day team or sign up to be an advocate. We need voices. We need voices to talk to the funders of the world because, as some of these diseases are funded, you look at breast cancer, you look at heart disease, you look at AIDS. People are living with AIDS. That is the ultimate goal, so that you can live with the disease and not die from it. But we need people to sign up for clinical trials. So we have trialmatch.com, and at Pairs, there's a lot of stuff going on at Ohio State. And there's nationwide, there's all sorts of trials going on. So we need people to send an email, pick up the phone, call your senator who's in your district, people to sign up for a trial match, spread the word, let them know we're here to help.
And this is on June 21st, is going to be the longest day.
The June 21st, it can happen in or around the weekend, but to do your activities, if you sign up, it gives you all sorts of ideas, from doing a bake sale to doing a poker run to bowling, fishing, whatever. But to sign up and tell your friends and family and celebrate.
Where are we with research?
There's a lot of dollars going into research. We have the HOPE Act and some other ones. They passed the NAPA Act. President Obama did in 2010. But funding is not where it needs to be. If we are going to find a cure anywhere in the near future, more funding has to go into research. So, we look at things we talked about at our annual Memory Day about increasing the respite funding. So for caregivers like LuAnn, if your loved one at home, to be able to have an aide come in and give the caregiver a break so they can go shopping, they can go get their haircut, they can go see a movie. Because the line item has been stagnant. So, I always say ask big first.
Sure. Yeah,
so,
always,
to increase it so those services are out there. And also there's a Guardianship Act so that guardians, because there are situations where there are no family members, but to protect the person who is going through the disease process so they don't you hear about people getting scammed all the time. And with Alzheimer's, it's a bigger problem because there's cognitive impairment. So, making sure those guardians are qualified and doing what is in the best interest of the person with the disease.
Let's review websites, phone numbers, how people can get in contact with you, or what they can do. If they want to donate, where would that go to?
Call the Central Ohio Alzheimer's Association. We're at 614-457-6003. Our website is www.alz.org/Central Ohio. We have a Facebook page like everybody else, so it's ALZ Central Ohio. We have Twitter, we're on Pinterest. Basically, get on the phone, check out the website, and call us. And our 800 number, day or night, is 1-800-272-3900.
We'll get all those up on the screen with JT to get those up. Get the crew. We've just got a few minutes left. Advice to people who just deny this. The siblings deny it. Somebody says no, dad's okay, mom's okay. What would you? Maybe somebody that say, "Well, I know there's something wrong there." What would you suggest?
There's usually a family member or spouse who knows something's going on. So it's just supporting that person and providing as much education as possible, as well as being able to go to a neurologist to get a diagnosis. So that person is usually there. So just giving them support, and then encouraging families to come to something like the May 12th presentation, and eventually people will start seeing that something's going on. It may take time, but as LuAnn said, it's a tough disease. It really is.
We have found I've found it's helpful if you can notify the doctor in writing, maybe a note. My dad's coming in. Can you look at these?
They should call their doctor or call a neighbor and say there's something that we need to address here.
Yeah, they certainly need to call their doctor. A lot of folks start with their primary care doctor, but really going to a neurologist is really where you're going to get the most testing and really a good diagnosis of what's going on.
Well, we appreciate all three of you coming in today talking about this. Again, Tuesday, May 12th, the second floor assembly room at the Fairfield Medical Center. Memory Matters is going to be an event, and the longest day is
June 21st, but on June 20th in Lancaster, there's going to be all sorts of activities. So check the website and Facebook page for what's going on.
fantastic. Well, again, we appreciate coming in and talking about this, and hopefully we've get some awareness out to some people that may not have known anything about it, or maybe didn't want to know anything about it. So
That's right.
We do appreciate you coming in. Jennifer, Sharon, LuAnn, we appreciate it, and thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Life's Perspective. I'm Mike Miller, and remember, until we meet again, let's make a difference.
In 1929 in Chicago, a gentleman by the name of Marion Wade, a former minor league baseball player, started the company. It was just a moth-proofing company then. In 1952, it expanded to carpet cleaning and pioneered what is now called outsourcing. And the Sidwells wanted a community that had a lot of churches, had a lot of soccer opportunities, their kids love soccer, and a good Parks and Rec department, so they chose Lancaster. And so in 1980, they moved the franchise here in Lancaster to 6th Avenue. But then in 2002, Todd George, current owner, purchased the franchise from them. And in 2004, he bought a building that's on Mulberry Street, and that's where the franchise is located currently. I'm Jay Johnson, General Manager of Service Master Clean by Todd George, where we guarantee if it's not done right the first time, we'll do it again.
Service Master Clean by Todd George, 740-687-1077, 740-687-1077.